Hello everyone, this is Prakash and welcome to the Researchers Roundtable podcast. And thank you so much for supporting our last two episodes with the Researchers Roundtable guests Jawahar Singh and Adil Khan. In this episode, we have a guest, Jack Bell. Jack did his PhD from Durham University and recently he has been employed as a postdoctoral research fellow. We will be sharing his experience as a postdoc, as a PhD scholar, and he's gonna share with some of the expertise he has gone during his PhD.
Work-life balance is something that most PhDs I've seen have lost.
No.
So that's the real advice.
That's the only problem. Okay then, you want to say anything extra? Then otherwise we're gonna stop. All right, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, welcome back to Soul, Jack. So can you tell me about yourself?
Wow, that's an open-ended question. What do you want to know?
Just like what you do, or
Sure, professionally, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a postdoc at Durham University in the biosciences department. I work as a protein engineer, so I produce recombinant protein. We make bioinsecticides, so we use natural toxins derived from spider venom. We don't work with spiders. We make them in yeast, and we through a bit of scientific magic, we fuse them to another protein, which gives them insecticidal activity. So we're making natural pesticides.
okay. I'd like to know
Nice.
what exactly your educational background means, why you choose the science like undergrad and PhD.
Sure. So I dropped out of secondary school at the age of 16. I didn't like school, didn't like academia. So I did nothing for like a year or two. I looked for apprenticeships. I don't know if you know what apprenticeship. So I only found ones where, I was offered like half of minimum wage, like £3 an hour, to basically make coffee for an office.
Okay.
After 2 years of looking for jobs like that and doing nothing really, I kind of found a passion for science mostly through podcasts and watching YouTube videos and stuff like that, like documentaries. So I decided to, and that was mostly biology and chemistry. So I decided to do a foundation course. That's where I have to kind of retake my A levels, which I missed because I dropped out of school. The course led me to an undergraduate in biochemistry,
Okay.
which then led me to a master's in protein engineering. That was my main fascination with my undergraduate, was the idea of making, proteins are cool, right? Proteins carry out every function in our body, enzymes. And the idea of kind of hacking that, like biohacking and like making our own proteins,
Okay.
is what really led me to want to pursue research, PhD, protein engineering.
So this thought, when it came to your mind, like 2, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, what time exactly? Because recently somebody got the Nobel Prize for the protein engineering.
Yeah.
Because before that must be your thinking, means it's really new things, because protein engineering is now the next step for the biotechnology or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the Nobel Prize, do you know who that went to?
I don't know the name, but Emma, I don't know what's the name, but do you know that?
I can't remember.
But a lady won that one.
Yeah, it was the
and-
woman in chemical engineering.
Yeah.
It was the Nobel Prize in chemistry.
Yes.
But it was in protein engineering.
Yeah.
So, so you say how long ago was that? So this was the research lab that I was in for my master's. The only really competing lab for exactly what they were doing, which was it was guided evolution.
Okay.
Right, so kind of like a high throughput protein design where you produce an array and then you kind of subject them to a selection pressure,
Right.
like evolution,
Yeah.
and you design a protein in that way. The only other lab doing that at the time was a lab in California where the woman who was carrying out that research won the Nobel Prize
Oh God, great.
for protein
So
engineering.
I can say you are the third one in that series that you still are working on. It's a novel thing. Few people in the
Sure.
world, they are working, and literally new topic actually. Nobody is exploring too much because I feel when I was doing a master, I was in the biochemistry laboratory. Mostly we were doing the enzyme activity, like a peroxidase activities and all those things.
Yeah.
But not like the protein engineering. And it was really cool when I heard like people can make this kind of Nobel Prize when you are working simply mutation and all those things engineering to the new form. It was really nice.
Yeah, I mean the reason I liked her Nobel Prize was it was less of a rational process that she was carrying out. So it wasn't so much I know exactly how a protein's going to fold. I can design a structure. It was kind of copying the power of nature, right? So like we've done in so many other ways with like antibiotics and stuff.
Yeah,
it was looking at the way that natural selection works and kind of.
You produce a lot of protein, then you look for which protein will be the most stable. Like sometimes you're producing like a 60, 70, 80, 100 sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And a few of those will be like you're expecting like this is structurally stable, let's go for that purification, then all those things. Yeah, it's a long term, but it's still like it's a challenging, So with that one, I bring the new question. What kind of challenges you faced when you started working in protein engineering, like initial stage when you're doing in the PhD?
PhD, protein engineer, challenges I faced in protein engineering. That's a good question. That's a good question. None of the challenges were really in the engineering element. Engineering, we use an amount of rational design. So there's some element of understanding the interactions, the electrochemical interactions between amino acids in a protein, but not much. A lot of it is also. It's a good question. Most of the issues that I've faced during my PhD have been in protein production. You go into most biochemistry labs in the country that are producing protein, and they're not struggling with the design of the protein. It's easy enough to design a protein. They'll be trying to figure out why isn't it expressing? Why is my host not producing the protein? Why can't I purify the protein? And then why is my pure protein being degraded, right? Those are the kind of common... So those were the problems I faced during my PhD. Why is I design a protein, and by all of my understanding, it should work, it should exist, it should be fine. But then the yeast won't make it, and when they do, it's degraded, right?
So how many times you feel like when I was doing protein purification, most of the time is like I was facing my protein is not in the soluble fraction, it's going to the inclusion body, and sometimes even you purifying the quantity is not that much. So during my PhD, first year was like that, struggling with purifying the protein from bacteria. Like it's quite 1 year, which take me a lot of time to figure out what exactly I have to do. But after that, I figured out like exactly these things I need to take care when I'm doing these things. Anything happened with you like that? Like what time you exactly realized during the PhD, or what phase you know?
Sure. So there was one point where, so the toxins that we produce, they have no oral activity. So the design that we carry out is to enhance oral activity of our protein. So I carried out that design, and it resulted in the yeast producing truncated protein that I couldn't purify, that had no activity. And I was blessed that 6 months later, a research group working with Google DeepMind released AlphaFold.
Okay.
And it was kind of a bit of luck that it came out at that time, and I started using it in my design process. Okay. And it essentially solved the issues that I was facing. So the design that we were carrying out was flawed, and this I mean, do you know much about AlphaFold? I guess I should probably say what AlphaFold is.
Even, I don't know, because recently again they published this paper in the Nature or somewhere where they have use the next version of that AlphaFold where you can predict a lot of things. You can do play with the metal ion and all those things. I really don't know what those things, but you started learning by yourself or somebody was helping? Like, it's a trouble because sometimes software learning is not my area.
Absolutely, it's not my area at all either. Programming, coding is not for me. The beauty of AlphaFold is that it was it was immediately made open source, so it was made publicly available to the research community, and it was literally as easy as copying and pasting your primary sequence, and you're given a structural prediction. the likes of which I thought would be impossible in most of our lifetimes, right? It was the main challenge of structural biology was resolving structure from primary sequence alone.
Yeah, without any going for crystallography or something
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because that work would have been possible with what I was doing, but the lab that I'm in, we don't have the time or the money to crystallize all of our
hypothetical protein.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So being able to do it in silico obviously makes it accessible to tons of people, and it couldn't be easier. It's an online interface. You copy and paste your sequence, and it provides enough output to heavily modify the design of the proteins that we're working with.
Oh, great. So other question, if you say did you make any collaboration with any expert in the field, or you? I mean, so like, did you think like, should I, I always look for the collaboration. Sometimes like, if I get the collaboration, it will help your. So any role like a collaboration in your work help you or something like that?
No. Not really.
So you are working on your own.
It's been a solitary pursuit. Yeah, there's very few people being at the. Not to make it sound too good, but being at the real forefront like that meant that there was zero publications.
Yeah.
I was unaware of any other labs that were using it in the way that I wanted to use the software.
Okay.
And even if they were so far removed from my field of designing these neurotoxic peptides that it was a solitary pursuit for the most part of my PhD. Yeah, for sure.
So overall, how you define your research career? Like, do you, in the long term, like if I say, would you like to be in a research or you want to move in other career opportunities? Like,
so I'm actually really what fascinated me, and this has become it's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, is what it means to do research and what I want to do. So I've heard from academics recently that they would be happy to spend their entire academic career researching a problem without ever solving that problem or producing something that solves that problem.
Okay.
Right? So you have to justify why you're doing your research, and so often you have to word it in such a way as, here's an issue that the world faces.
Yeah.
But it seems like a lot of academics don't really want to solve that issue that they claim that the world faces. They just want to spend years tackling it from lots of different little angles, figuring it out, but never really.
It's more like a basic science they want to do, but not like a applied concern. Because most of the time what the people looking for the academic job is like, if you have a good CV, good publication, and most of the time people are focusing on this aspect rather than, I will say, like if you are engineering some proteins and that can solve some issues, you know how much time you have to modify that protein and those kind of things. Suppose 10 PhD people are joining to the lab and they all fail, for example, because these things are not so easy, right? So most of the time I feel like in academy people are like, okay, let's do the simplest experiment where we just prove that, but we could not solve the whole issue, like this is a big issue. Sometimes people go for that one because as a postdoc, when you don't have a time, for example, but as a scientist, you can solve that because you're staying at that lab for a long time. You can make those things, but as a postdoc, if I think about those things, I literally can't make a big paper or invention because I don't have that much time.
It's true. I think even if you did have enough time, the kind of the nature of research is that I produced a toxin in my PhD that was successful. It worked, and in the design process, rationally, I included a small pro-region before the peptide that we thought was necessary to allow the protein to be just allow it to fold properly within the yeast. That's how I designed the protein. That's how I made the protein. The protein worked, right?
No.
Now, in an industry, that would be enough. You'd say, here's a product, it could solve a problem, we can sell this, right?
Yeah.
In research, 3 years down the line, I've written my thesis and I'm moving on, and my supervisor is telling me that we can't possibly publish that work because she would have to produce the same protein without that pro region, right? Which hypothetically we think it wouldn't work, right? So you'd spend 6 months making it,
Yeah.
thousands of pounds in lab equipment, and even more in taxpayer grant funding money, right, just to demonstrate the null hypothesis. And obviously the null hypothesis is an important element of the scientific method.
Yeah.
But it also stands in the way of efficient production of a product in many ways. And I think that's what I've realized I've fallen out of love with research, is that it's not enough to just make something that works. You have to prove why everything else wouldn't work.
Yeah. That's like people for that's the control, like negative control you have to always take. And even when I was doing a PhD, and suddenly my boss said, do you have a GLP controlled transgenic? And I was like, no, why I would need that? And later I realized that was needed. And it would have, if I could have dipped the flower dip over there, and I got the transgenics, and I could have that problem solved. But later I realized, I think even the negative, that doesn't do a lot, but still it's required, okay, for the experiment, you need a negative control or something. All right. So, if you say, how do you balance your work-life balance?
So I've just, I'm 7 months out, 8 months out of my PhD. PhD, I think for a lot of people, is a period of your life where you kind of forget how to do anything outside of your work. So it's been 8 months of trying to figure that out, coming out the other end of the PhD, figuring out how to start life back up again. How do I balance my work life? So exercise is probably the biggest part, whether it's gym, running, sports, badminton.
Yeah.
I play with you. So, cooking, going out, spending money on
shopping.
On shopping,
That's
therapy.
My favorite one. I feel like if I'm too much stressed, so it's like my therapy is like, if you can make yourself happy in any means, like going for shopping. The shopping is the best thing. You don't hurt anyone, first thing, for your happiness. You just spend the money. And there are two things. One thing, you become happy. People say you can't buy the happiness, but it's not true for myself. Like if I buy something, like this machine I brought for my happiness,
sure,
it's doing that one. At the same time, I say like, if I brought this one in the £1,000, I should use that one now. So it makes you like, again, motivated for why you brought the first step.
For sure.
So I think that's good actually. But most of the problem I have heard from my colleagues is that during the PhD, when they start, they are very much highly motivated. And once in the second year, for example, they will be very much into the science. And there the things start, not working. And they start this, work and life balance in the final years or after that. But problem arises like, while you are having these troubles, you don't look into this one. Like, should I talk to someone about my work? Or they will feel like you are judging them or something. So I feel like if you balance this one from the beginning of your PhD or any job, that is required like a life and work balance rather than I would say in the end. So I learned this lesson when I was doing PhD. Most of the time I was in the lab, like from morning to evening, and again after that, because we were leaving the hostel. So in the night after dinner, we will always go to the lab. Because you think like you will spend a lot of time in the lab, you will be more productive, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not true.
I agree, yeah.
If I'm coming in the lab like 7:30 and I'm going at like a 7 or 8 and I'm feeling I have a lot of time, so my work speed will be very slow because I know that I have a lot of time, right? So I will do it very slowly.
Yes.
And somehow if you are spending the whole week in the lab, you feel like a drained, you burn out, you don't want to again start on for the next week.
Yeah.
So why I started doing that workout for myself when I was in third year of my PhD or second year of my PhD. My boss was not happy for the first time. He said, like, Prakash, you're going away at 4:30 or 5:30 and it's not good, right?
Yeah.
But my consistency, he saw, like I'm going proper timing, and he realized I'm more productive at that time. So later, after a few months, he stated that, look at it, Prakash. He has very nice work and life balance. I was not that much because I was going through a lot of pressure in the lab. Then workout was one of the therapy for myself. So yeah, I think most of the time, either your peers or your supervisor will say you are wasting your time.
Yes.
But in the end, actually, I feel like you should feel like it's important for you rather than somebody's telling it's good for you or not.
Yeah.
So I think that's most of people do the workout and this badminton and all those play.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point about where you have to know what the PhD means to you, right?
Yeah.
What you're actually trying to get out of it. If you're spending that much time on something, then you should be able to put into clear words what the end goal is. And for me, the end goal of the PhD was always to learn, to improve myself as a scientist and a researcher, and learn to work hard. It was a challenge. It was to overcome the challenge of the PhD as well.
Yeah.
And in some regards, just to have the PhD, just to have the certificate, to be a doctor, and for whatever benefit that brings you with your career perspective, right?
Yeah.
If those are the three things that you want, then when I'm looking back at my PhD and I think of all the weekends that I spent here
In the lab. Was the fruitful or like
well, exactly. Did the weekends really contribute to any of those three things that I wanted?
No,
not really.
I don't think so. In some cases, maybe exceptional. Like people get happy with working because they love staying lab.
Yeah.
But at the end, whatever people are saying, like I love my job, but your work-life balance is so important. Your mental health is so important.
Yeah.
You should consider that one. If somebody is saying, most of the time people don't say, but suppose I'm saying, Jack, you are working too hard, man. I can see that. Why I'm saying this. So many times I have talked to you about those things. Like, why you are working on Saturday, for example?
I used to see you all the time.
Yeah, you say like, oh no, Prakash, I'm not coming for like a whole day. But it's like, keeping these things, if you are aware of, this is, I call like self-aware, where you should know that what is good for yourself and also be biased to yourself. Like, you need rest. You need to rest sometime. And I feel like whenever you're talking to some people, you say the late in the weekend or something, I always say, is it long day or something? So when you say these things, they realize, okay, I should go, I guess. And a lot of people, when I was doing PhD, they used to look at me like, oh, Prakash, you're still in the lab. And they used to say like, go away from lab for some time. Go away from your field of research and talk to the non-specific people. And that's where I started going to gym, where the people are like an undergrad or different profession. You're not thinking about the science. So that was therapy. Like you learn something from, away from your profession. So that was one of the therapy, and no one is going to judge over me like, oh, Prakash is doing science again and he's doing this and that. But that was like going away from your work. And suddenly next day I am coming back to lab was like a new fresh start for me, rather than I'm just going from the lab like 9 and going to sleep in the morning, opening eyes and coming back to the lab. It's like too much challenging for me.
It's not good for your mental health. And what use are you if you come into the lab and you can't do your work because of your poor mental health? You know? It's. I think working efficiently is as important as working for a long time. You know, it's quality, not quantity. I think. Yeah, for sure.
I believe that one, and this is my routine nowadays. Like, so I did my PhD like that in the morning to evening. That you are still in the lab.
Yes.
But when I came to UK, I feel like no, I need this balance, work-life balance. So most of the time I talk to my supervisor what exactly you want, because my life is so much different, because other people are staying with their partners and all those, but I'm staying alone, and sometimes I need to talk to my partner back to India, and which is like a different time point. So one day I said like, I can't come early in the morning because I need to focus on both things, my personal life and work. I clearly said this one. Then he replied, okay, so you go according to your timings. You come at 9 or 10, I don't care. Just go through that one. And somehow at the end, he needs what he is expecting from you, right? So I made myself like, okay, in the morning I will talk at that time. That's like my starting of the day. I can't avoid that one because that is important. Then come back to lab and I just focus myself. Like I have a 4 or 3 or whatever time I do have. I just go for like a correct work. Work these things, complete today and leave for the workout again. Because it's again like personal life, professional life, back to therapy. This is my routine. So I felt that way. Like if you can manage these things, for me, it's my personal view. I'm happy with that. because I'm also taking my personal life not completely avoided, professional completely not gone. Like, oh, I don't have a good relation with my boss because he's saying, you come late and you're going early. It's very tough, you know. I don't know. As a PI, what do you think? Why it's different? Like, why people think like that?
So I mean, you know, PIs have to be selfish, right? They need us more than we need them.
Yeah, that's just
arguably.
symbiotic. It's symbiotic,
like,
not a parasite.
It's almost parasitic, but it is. We'll call it symbiotic.
Yeah.
Certainly, during my PhD, I was the same as you. You know, time meant nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I would come in if I was worried about my fermenter. I would come in just before bed at 10, 11 p.m. just to make sure it was okay before I went to bed. And I'd wake up in the night thinking about it, you know. And then I'd come in early just to check up on my work, and weekends, obviously, whatever. Transitioning to postdoc, so I had seen friends of mine transition from PhD to postdoc, where they went from, you know, working 7 till 7 to working 9 till 5, right, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
And I pledged to do that. So when I started my postdoc, I was working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And right, that was a big shift. And so it's an adjustment for them to recognize that that's what you need. I lost weight.
Yeah.
I was healthier at the gym. I was running for the first time. I quit smoking.
Yeah.
Everything in my life had improved. And to an extent, peers as well. Postdocs, there is an element of toxic work ethic where
that's right.
It's almost, you should be working as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
You should be here on the weekends.
Actually, yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, when I'm doing postdoc, it's like, if I'm going on Saturday, it's my choice. Okay. And my experiment is according to that one. For example, I need to come on Saturday to just harvest my sample. And I'm okay with that one. But on Monday, if I'm coming late, please don't ask me why you're late. First thing. Because I can't explain on Saturday or Sunday I have done those experiments.
Yeah.
So give the freedom to postdoc. They want to explore.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not exactly like a PhD. Thing is that if you're staying in the same lab where you have done a PhD, they still believe you are a PhD.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to move back from India. Like, I don't want to do the postdoc in the same lab, but I want to go away some other lab and feel like you are an independent scientist. You feel, because most of the time, early career researchers, we think like when you're going for abroad, you will plan everything according to, because you should feel like you are planning everything by your own and you're bringing something new. But it's still just saying, somebody's saying and guiding you as a PhD scholar, like, you have to do this experiment and give me that data. What I'm saying according to that one is, I'm not learning by it, right? So I think that is also missing when people move from one place to other. They feel, not most of them, but few have here that they mostly go through this thing and they are not enjoying their PhD or postdoc. That's what I guess.
For me, certainly now, if I am in on the weekend, like you say, it's my choice.
Yeah.
The only reason I would come in on a Sunday is to make my Monday easier. But there is that element of, if I come in late on a Monday because I've been working on a Sunday, that my boss is going to be like, why are you coming in late on a Monday?
Yeah. And they don't know about your routines, right? First thing, they said, Prakash is doing his work, Jack is doing according to his work. Now he is independent. Sometimes, maybe we were like, we're tired, we don't want to come on Monday. It's fine, because we are going to be late. If you're coming late, you can be going to late because you have to work and complete your work, whatever you have. Yeah, that's right. So, last question.
Go on.
Yeah, it's not finishing, right? So I just want to ask if you want to give some suggestion for your, new student coming for PhD or science. Give me some, advice for them.
Advice for a newcomer to academia. I think I'm cynical. I think my advice would be, don't do it. I find myself wondering, I'm 5 years in to real academia. If you include my master's, nearly 6 years.
I know.
If I had got a job with my undergraduate, I mean, it depends what you want. If you want to be an academic, you have to do a PhD.
Yeah, that's
right. If I'd got a job with my undergraduate, I'd be 6 years into it.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been a bad job to start with, but maybe 2 or 3 promotions, once every 2 years, pay rises and everything. I'd probably be earning more than I am now.
Yeah.
And I'd be in a career, because right now I'm going to leave academia.
Yeah.
And I'll be starting fresh.
Something new.
So I mean, that's, you know, I've given that advice to master's students when they've asked about PhD. I have told numerous people, don't do a PhD, and they've all done a PhD.
Yeah.
Right. I was told not to do a PhD
Okay.
before starting my PhD. So I feel like you have to tell people not to do a PhD. They will still do it if they want to do it.
Why I feel like this is option. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If you have done the undergrad, people look for the postgrad, and they look for the PhD. Then they look for postdoc, and in the postdoc, they are playing postdoc all the time, unless they are not getting permanent position. I think if you are going for undergrad, just say I'm doing this one and look for the career opportunities, not for like PhD or something. Then again you're doing master, then again you're doing PhD, means you are lost in that one. That's why most of the time people coming to undergrad say, I'm doing this one, after that I have a job. So one of the master student in my lab, I asked him, he was doing the 6-month project in our lab.
Ed,
and he said like, I'm not going for science. He was clear about his job, and he said he's going to finance or something.
Yeah.
So if you're coming to science, I think you have to be a clear vision, not like exactly I don't know, after PhD, I don't know, I will be doing a postdoc. Then you are in something you don't know about. And if you're not feeling like I have to be in the science, so be ready. There will be a lot of crying in the lab, a lot of fight with your boss and all, and there will be no security for your career.
Yes, absolutely.
Believe that.
You know, I think the real advice is what you've been saying this whole time. You know, do a PhD, don't do a PhD. Figure out if you want to be in academia. You know, you'll figure it out along the way. Ed will be doing well in business with his science background. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gives you, but what you've said, work-life balance is something that most PhDs I've seen have lost.
No.
So that's the real advice.
That's not only for the PhD, even the PI, if you see the supervisor, they are also going through this one. I'm telling you.
PI, it's too late.
It's too late. That's right. So I will say, if we start something at this step, like doing PhD, if you're doing PhD, just make sure you are balancing these things. If you have too much mental health issues, just talk to expert. I think that's a good advice will be.
Absolutely.
Or talk to your peers, like a friend or colleagues that can help you a lot, I think. And we have talked, I think, during our PhD, your PhD and my postdoc initial stage, we were talking a lot of things about like differences of the climate, everything, rubbish, anything. I think that's also matter a lot, making friends in the in your department or all around, because you need to talk with someone. It doesn't be like somebody is going to judge you, but it's rather than sharing your opinion on the whole day, how it was, something like that. Okay, then you want to say anything extra? Then otherwise we're gonna stop.
Nothing that I'd like to say, you know, thanks to my family, thanks to my mum.
Yeah. Go for it.
Nothing more to add, Prakash.
I'm really this word. I really feel like accidentally you said this thing, but it's really important to thank the people who has helped you in your life. Like,
of course,
I was writing my poster, making my poster today, and I made a section acknowledgement. So I acknowledge all the authors and the funding agency, but there is another column I have written about me. Literally, this is new. I have added about me, who I am, where I did my PhD, and I thank all the people who helped me during the post-COVID time.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
literally did that.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
And I feel like this is not a data, but this is how you can show the change in the academy. You have to appreciate the people, whatever they're doing, what the help, what you got, everything. Means no one discovered the failure. For example, if I say, Jack, come here and talk about your failure, you will say, why I'm talking about failure, for example. People are going to judge you. I haven't done anything, I haven't got any publication and all those things. Why? First thing, you said, I saw myself better place, better scientist now. Because that's important. Publication will be there, not today, but tomorrow. But if you feel that when you have exceed in your field, like a scientist, feeling like a scientist, like analyzing like a scientist, that's, I say, achievement for myself also, because Ed left his job undergrad, then he went for job. He may not use the scientific things, but he has the scientific attitude, how things gonna work
Yeah.
Or if not work, how are you going to solve it?
Well, yeah, research is not easy. If it
Yeah.
was easy, anyone would be doing it. So
Yeah.
it builds resilience and problem solving capabilities that he will be using
Yeah,
everywhere. Oh,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was really nice talking to you,
Cool,
Jack.
yeah, nice one,
And
Prakash. Thank you so much.
all the best for your next career, job, and all the opportunities.
kindly.
And
I'll
I will
keep
be
you-
talking to you all around the way.
I'll keep you up to date. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
thank you. Thank you so
Cool.
much. Yeah.
Well, that was Jack, and it was really fun having conversation with him. So there is a new update now in our podcast. So you can find our podcast not only on Apple Podcast or Spotify, but also in YouTube. So if you like our podcast, please share and follow. You can also drop your review and comments and suggestion for our podcast. Thank you. Bye.